Thank you for tuning in to Growing Tech Fast, the condensed podcast in which conversations about growing SaaS startups are had with those who have grown them. Today, we are joined by Jonathon Boston, SVP Global Sales at IDX. Thanks for coming on, Jonathon. How are you today?
I'm wonderful today, Joe. Happy Friday. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, it's a nice way to spend my Friday afternoon speaking to yourself.
Pleasure to be here.
So, Jonathon, I've been doing a little bit of reading about your background, a very experienced background. As you know, you've brought more than 2 decades of sales leadership to your current role, and you've been, focusing on driving the growth of IDX. Tell us a little bit about business and what you do there.
Sure, be happy to. So, we've got a mission at IDX, and it's really all around making the digital world a safer place. So, we're in the cybersecurity space. Joe, we really cut our teeth in the data breach business. So, we're on the response end of cyber attacks on corporations. And so, what we do, our primary business is when a data breach happens in the States, and we're on the Western US, but our largest client is the US federal government. So, what we do when a data breach occurs in the States is we send out notification letters. So, last year, IDX sent out over 40 million physical letters to impacted individuals of a data breach incident. And then we staff the call centers if there's any questions they've got regarding the incident specifically. And then we provide our software solution, which is the IDX Identity, which is the identity protection software device or software solution. So that's our core business, is data breach response, but we're going into other channels as well. We've got a strategic partnerships group, which I head up, which develops white label partnerships with bigger corporations, typically in the finance sector, as well as we've got an employee benefits group, which I head up, and we provide our monitoring solution as an employee benefit.
That fantastic overview, Jonathan. Thank you very much for that. And I mean, gosh, what a space to be a part of. This is a huge space, growing so quickly. I mean, you say there 40 million notification letters you sent out. How have you seen that grow it over the years? I mean,
Oh, it's got worse and worse and worse, and it's really all centered around nation state attacks. So we've seen a lot of activity from Russia and North Korea, and recently there was from South Africa an unemployment fraud case that went on here in the States, which was a major issue where false unemployment claims were being filed, specifically initially targeted at government workers in the healthcare space, physicians and doctors, but it really became a big issue. Hundreds of millions of dollars that issue itself caused. So we've seen so many new incidents occur because of the pandemic and the work from home environment we're going in.
Absolutely. So how long have you been at IDX for now, Jonathan?
3 years now.
3 years, gosh. So 3 years ago, the space is, as you say, it's growing, and you've probably got in at a fantastic time for IDX for it to expand. But what was the situation when you joined?
Well, the situation, we were really more of we were in a comfortable spot as a company. We had new investment from private equity, and we had a new CEO come in, and instead of running it like a lifestyle business and a very small business, we really needed to build valuation in the company and really focus on hyper growth. And so really, where's our revenue today coming from? What other channels can we expand into to grow the company in a significant manner and build valuation in the company? So it's really been an opportunity to come in, take my experience and my leadership and say, where are we going as a company, and where are we going as a society, and how can we mesh those two together to deliver growth and, most importantly, a solution for those in need?
Absolutely. I mean, those, as you're saying, the situation you're trying to answer a problem to the situation in which society is going. And gosh, how much has society changed over the last 9 months? 2020 is the year of change in regard to the way we work, Jonathan. So how are you battling that as a company in terms of this, where essentially everyone who doesn't need to work from an office is now working from home? What challenges does that pose to you as a company?
Well, as a company, I'm a people leader, so I've got to make sure first we take our messaging as a leadership team and expand it out to the rest of the company, right? So what we all define as normal is relative to what our experience is today. So we can't say or get in this panic state where this is completely foreign, because we're in an environment today which 9 months ago we would have never imagined, but today it's almost become a normal state. But we've got to create calm within our workforce. And how can we grow? How can we use this as an opportunity as a company to serve others? There's new vulnerabilities being created, but really ensure that our team is motivated, all in alignment. How can we all work together? And then take that messaging to our external customers and make sure they've got to move forward. And how can we help them best to move forward to give them a sense of calm about what today's normal is?
Absolutely. So I mean, as a sales leader, you've got those issues that you're having with your own team, and trying to help them grow and nurture them without being there physically for them, and in that sales environment. I know that we as a business have also felt that sort of thorn in the side. We miss the sales room, the sales floor, as it were. But I suppose in your space, though, in the privacy space, what challenges has this situation posed for company for your technology?
Oh, for technology, it's really the convergence of your personal digital life and your business digital life, and meshing those two together, where when we're in a controlled office atmosphere and you've got the corporate firewalls and you're working off the company computer, you're not as much mixing your personal and your business life. And so now we're in an environment where work from home is normal. And if you've got children, you've got their education to worry about and making sure that they're connected, most cases in a digital sense, and you're their homeroom leader of their education. But then you've got managing groceries and finances and mixing that with business, and it just creates all kinds of vulnerabilities being outside of that corporate firewall environment where it's I work at work and I do my home personal business at home. There's that convergence which really can cause a lot of, from a technology perspective, a lot of issues and vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. And this is coupled on top of the last 2 to 3 years of change of the introduction to GDPR, the debate around data privacy in regard to social media. What are you doing to assist there, Jonathan, as a business?
Oh, social media is our number one priority right now, Joe. And Netflix, briefly, you and I chatted yesterday about the social dilemma, which if your listeners have not seen that, I'd highly recommend everybody check the social dilemma out. But with us, we focus on digital privacy. We're the first to market. We just launched a brand new platform called IDX Privacy, and it's all about an individual's privacy. You've got GDPR there in the EU, which is a tremendous privacy legislation, and it's still being defined as it's out there right now on what global impact it's having. In the States here, we've got the CCPA, which is the California Privacy Protection Act, and that's really a good start for us. It's the first privacy legislation. You're in an opt-in state with GDPR, which means corporations have to get your consent to market to you. Here in the States, it's an opt-out state. So by default, the US citizens are just getting bombarded with tracking cookies and targeted advertisements, and it's just chaos from a digital standpoint, especially in regard to social media and targeted ads. So that's our big focus right now, is trying to create a lot more privacy than.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, interestingly, Jonathan, as I say, we spoke about the social dilemma yesterday, and for those of you who haven't seen it, we both highly recommend it. It's essentially it's a documentary which explores how the sort of the internet's most popular products work on a basic business model of tracking users' behavior, as you say, and they use that data, that private data. To then sell you targeted ads and then influence, and it comes across really well in the documentary. It influences addictions. Now, I was having a conversation and following up from what we discussed, Jonathan, with one of my colleagues, and he actually took an interesting approach. He said, well, if I'm looking at, for example, a pair of jeans with, Ralph Lauren, for example, because I want to buy them, well, I'd rather see the jeans in my advertisements than something completely random. So is it really such a big issue?
Oh, I think it's a really big issue. And it was a federal investigator I was talking to at a conference it was in March actually, before we went into a formal lockdown. And he said a corporation like Google, as an example, they're about two things. And this really resonated with me. They're about surveillance and manipulation. And so I'm going to say that again, two things, surveillance and manipulation, because you think about it, all of your activity online, it's building a digital footprint, right, of your persona. And where can companies like Google, like Twitter, like Facebook, which is what the social dilemma talked about, how can they leverage all of the profile information on you, which in some cases is more than you know about yourself, to manipulate your behavior? And so it's really a frightening environment. And then how can we get off that?
You see, I'm on your side completely here, Jonathan. And a line that really stuck out with me in that documentary was, if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. I mean, gosh,
I know. It's terrifying.
It's insane. It's insane. Well, moving away and back into the sort of true aspect of the podcast and how you're growing tech fast, Jonathan. You've started out your journey in quite a large sort of multinational company, Sage. Am I correct in thinking?
Absolutely, yes.
So, what made you take the crazy decision to leave all of this support, all of these sort of systems, the big branded name behind you when you pick up the phone, to go and join a startup?
No, that's a great question. So there's really two types of mindsets if you study psychology, and I married a psychologist, so I've always been fascinated with how the human brain works, and probably led me to where I'm at today. But you've either got a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, right? So I'm one who's got a growth mindset. I love the next challenge. I like to climb to the top of the mountain and figure out, okay, what's beyond the mountain. And so Sage is a wonderful company, terrific leadership, great training, great environment, great people. But I wanted to know, if I'm the sole leader of a company as far as growth and sales and leadership, what impact can I make? What does that look like from just a leadership growth standpoint? So it was about taking a risk and finding a company where I was passionate about what their cause was and really investing myself and driving growth. And so that's what really just caused me to say, okay, smaller company, hyper growth, how can I drive that, confident in my own abilities? And that's what led me via a recruiter to a new opportunity, which was small sector, hyper growth, SaaS environment. It was fantastic.
That's brilliant. I think that idea of growth mindset, it certainly resonates with myself. I don't like to be another cog in the well-oiled machine of a corporation. But you know, the opportunity to really shape the direction of a company is second to none. And to look at something and say, actually, I built that. How, you know, what a wonderful experience.
Well, Joe, and I didn't tell you this part of the story. So I got into the tech space in 2010. And prior to that, I was leading a national construction company that did commercial and multifamily construction. And the great thing, I had, my wife and I had two children at the time, and it was to take my young children and say, Daddy built that. Daddy built that. And we'd travel around the country, and there'd be these big buildings that I had my fingerprint on. And so it is that mindset to say, what impact can I make to this company? And I think if we all approach our work daily with, we've got to put our own fingerprint on our job, and what impression are we leaving when we check out at the end of the day, that's really important to growth and having that mindset.
Absolutely. I mean that, you know, and that doesn't come without its hard work, right, Jonathan? And it struggles along the way. I mean, you know, to be able to build something from the ground, you know, you have to fail a good many times to get it right. Am I right?
Oh,
So what are there any particular moments in your career where you look back on and where you think, okay, that really changed my thinking, that changed my approach?
oh, sure. And I believe everything happens for a reason. And big believer in Rhonda Byrne's book, The Secret, which goes back quite a while, but I still look at The Secret daily affirmation on my phone. And we had an incident. So I mentioned leading a construction company. We had terrific growth. I was there 10 years. And then 2010, we hit a recession. And in the multifamily construction business, which was our core business, there was a lot of lawsuits flying because developers were running out of money. And so I found myself in a position where I was defending the company as primarily their legal representative, gathering and defending ourselves with our attorneys on construction defect suits because these developers ran out of money and are suing the builder. So that became a grind. It was ugly. It was no fun. It wasn't building. It was defending. And so I was ready for some tipping point to happen, and I got a call from a recruiter that was with Sage, and I found out Sage's story, and it sounded like a wonderful opportunity to shift from my construction sales leadership and growth to a global enterprise software company like that. And so I was very blessed with Sage having the vision to take someone from outside the software sector and invest in me, and we drove great growth here in the States with Sage Software and their accounting group for construction and real estate. So that was really how I broke in. But it was really at a down point, but I used it as an opportunity. So it just worked out well.
Absolutely, absolutely. You need to, you know, as you said, everything does certainly happen for a reason. And, you know, I'm glad you mentioned, you know, the secret of that daily affirmation where you wake up in the morning and say, you've got the end goal in mind. This is what we're looking to do. And you say it to yourself and you believe it. And if you keep it in mind, you're going to get there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And people hear that whether you say a word or you say nothing, they see it the way you carry yourself. And, you know, no matter what adversity you face during the day, there's always a shining light beyond that to help you grow. So
Brilliant. Well, look, Jonathan, you've been an absolute joy to speak with. Your insights into the privacy space, the growth of that space, but not only your insights into the actual technology and the problems that you're dealing with has been fascinating, but your insights into the wanting to move from these large corporations to a smaller, more agile company, perhaps, where you can have much more of an impact and can say, and I love that quote, you know, you can go and point to a building and say, I've built that. Well, you can go and point to a company which, you know, maybe exits at 50 million, maybe goes on to go public and say, I was a part of that. I've built that. I'd love for you to leave our listeners with just one piece of advice. Maybe they're looking to get into the startup space. What would you say is the best way to do that, Jonathan?
Well, it's really to build connections and really to do your diligence on what you have a passion for. Joe, with my employees, I really try to dig and find out what motivates them, but we need to, as a company, share why we're in business. What issues are we trying to solve? And so if we don't hire people with a passion for our issues, then the company as a whole is not better and that employee won't be happy. So really don't look for a job. Find something you're passionate about. Have a mission as part of that career path you're taking, and really push to leave your fingerprint behind and leave it in a lot better spot. But don't look for a job, look for a career where you're passionate about what it is. And it's easy to say, but what I encourage, and I started with make connections. Leverage LinkedIn, leverage your family relationships, leverage your education. Don't limit yourself, and find out what it is that you want to do and what really excites you. For me, cybersecurity is where it's at because I saw the growth, and I know it's just fascinating. Every day is a different day, and it's something new and a new challenge every day. So really follow your passion. It's said frequently, but really it's difficult to figure out. But believe the right careers out there, and then network like crazy. Right now we're doing a video conference, but find a networking channel where you can find people of influence, where you can connect with them and figure out exactly what space you want to go into, and then fully dive in and invest yourself and leave that impression behind where you can say that I built that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Growing Tech Fast with Jonathon Boston, SVP Global Sales at IDX. It's been a joy to have you on, Jonathon. Thank you for your advice. Thank you for your joy and your real drive in what you do.
My pleasure, Joe. It was great chatting with you today.
Thanks, guys. Join us next week for our next podcast on Growing Tech Fast.